Okay, we are now live. Welcome to the show, everyone. There I am over there as well on the screen. We were joking about that before the show started. Anyway, a lot has happened the last week since our 500th episode special. We are going to focus in a special way on what seems to be an increase, not a cooling down, of violent rhetoric and actions from Democrats. First, not one but two situations happened this past week where ICE agents were ambushed and assaulted by left-wing agitators. Democrats are having a hard time reining in their own supporters' rage. And ex-employees from USAID and even current employees are threatening to use their talents of color revolution to overthrow the Trump administration from the inside. We'll also talk about Elon Musk's America Party and how criminals are using AI to trick officials in the government with deepfakes and taking advantage of unwitting victims for scams. We are going to talk about all of this in episode 501 of the In the Tank podcast.
Badly.
Good. Let's go, man.
Buddy. Oh. You don't want to go me.
No, I'm not filming this. I'm not stopping. No.
I don't know why.
You guys need to get off the golf course. No, now. Pack up. Go now. Get in the car and go.
I don't know what you're doing. You're not scaring anybody. You're just making it.
Yeah. In the Tank podcast. Woo. Okay. So this is the In the Tank podcast, you guys. I am Linnea Lueken, your host. And also, as always, we have Jim Lakely, Vice President of the Heartland Institute. Jim, how are you this weekend?
I am doing great. That is exactly how I hype myself up for every single episode of the In the Tank podcast. I saw that video. Actually, I put that little stinger on the end of our intro video this week. That video went viral. Some of you listening to this may have seen it. I love the accents too. There's nothing more cute than a Canadian who's angry and cursing in that Canadian accent. It's just so adorable. But apparently the group there was a former NHL enforcer playing golf with his buddy, and then the group in front of them was going way too slow, and it was pissing him off. And he told him to get a move on. And then I guess the guy had a few too many Molsons at the turn and decided to step to a former NHL enforcer, and he got his face bashed in a very hilarious way. So, but I'm hyped for the show. Let's go.
That sounds like, I don't know, that sounds definitely like something that would happen on the 4th of July. What'd you do for the 4th, Jim?
I just chilled out. I'm here actually at my house in an undisclosed location somewhere in northern Illinois, in my backyard. If we're lucky, we'll see a chipmunk harass me because they're very brave.
What?
That's right. The wildlife around here is very, very friendly. Friendly by destroying my backyard. So, yeah, I just chilled out, just relaxed at home and made a steak.
Awesome. And we also have Sam Karnick, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute. Sam, how are you?
I'm fine. And I would like to know, how are you?
Oh, I'm terrific. What did you do for Independence Day, Sam?
Well, basically, I did the same thing Jim did, although at a different undisclosed location, just sort of chilling out. But I did watch one of my absolute favorite movies, which has a sort of America theme to it, and it's called The Wind and the Lion. And it's from around 1973, written and directed by John Milius, who wrote Dirty Harry and Apocalypse Now, and is a fantastic writer and director. It was great. Enjoyed it a lot. So that's what I did. And
Nice
what did you
palate
do?
cleanser after the stuff we talked about on the 500th
Yes.
episode, huh?
Yeah. So what did you do over the holiday?
Oh, well, I drove down to Florida and spent some time with some of my friends down there. It was great. But
Fantastic.
anyway, you guys, before we get started, as always, if you want to support the show, you can go to heartland.org/inthetank and donate right there. Please also click the thumbs up on this video and remember that sharing it helps to break through some of YouTube's suppression. Not that we're going to get our monetization back, but leaving us a comment helps to get through the algorithm. If you're an audio listener, you can help us out by leaving a nice review. Anyway, so let's jump right into it. We were talking about nice things, and we are about to get straight into some not so nice stuff. Today, our first topic is unhinged. And so our subject here is that twice ICE was ambushed in the past week. The first instance of crazy violence happened actually on Independence Day when a group of 10 leftist extremists ambushed officers outside of an ICE facility. The National Review reports this. The Justice Department filed a complaint Monday against 10 defendants for organizing an ambush at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas on the 4th of July. Each defendant is being charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer and 3 counts of discharging a firearm during and in relation to a violent crime. If convicted, the suspects will face a minimum of 10 years in prison and a maximum of life behind bars. An 11th defendant is facing charges for obstructing justice and conspiring to destroy evidence related to the ambush. That defendant could be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison. Okay, so to those of you guys who are outside of the loop on this one, I would recommend reading a thread that was posted to X by Mike Shelby. If you are over on that website, he is a former intelligence officer, and he did a very nice detailed timeline breakdown. He posted, in short, based on the number of weapons recovered, it could have been much worse. It sounds like some would-be shooters chickened out during the event. At 10:57 p.m., 10 to 12 individuals dressed in black began shooting fireworks towards the Prairie Land Detention Center. At 10:58, 2 unarmed correctionals officers approached the vandals, and the Alvarado police officers arrived. Then 2 shooters engaged police officers from about 100 to 150 meters away, expending 20 to 30 rounds, so about 1 magazine of 5.56 ammunition from AR platform rifles. At least 1 rifle jams, and the 2 shooting suspects flee to the west. Shortly after, police apprehend 7 suspects in the field west of shooting positions. They also find 2 AR-15 style rifles abandoned in a nearby woodline. Some were wearing body armor, carrying weapons, and had radios. A total of 12 sets of ballistic vests were later discovered in the area. Additionally, a Johnson County Sheriff's Office detective made a traffic stop and arrested 1 suspect armed with a pistol, 2 sets of body armor, and 1 ballistic helmet. An additional 2 ARs are found in the back seats of the van. The suspect was also carrying a radio. Okay, so that's like crazy stuff here. And it's right that Shelby pointed out that this could have been much worse. It seems, though, according to his analysis, that they were not trained at all. Their rifles might not have been zeroed in to the scopes that they were using, all sorts of stuff. So he also posted the mugshots below. And what's really striking to me is how many of the individuals arrested in this instance were women. And it seems also probably transgenders as well. I want to point out how strange that is in terms of general militia makeup. But it actually is rather common in Antifa-affiliated violent groups. So that was one of the instances of violence over the weekend. And then again on the following Monday, this Monday, we had a gunman who was killed by police after he attempted to attack a Texas Border Patrol station. Breitbart reported on that one. They said, the identity of the gunman remains unknown. However, preliminary information provided to Breitbart, Texas by multiple law enforcement sources revealed that on Monday early morning, a gunman wearing a black tactical vest carrying various firearms arrived at a U.S. Border Patrol annex building at the McAllen Airport and began firing. So 1 officer was hurt and he was rushed to the hospital, as in the previous situation. But the gunman in this case is deceased. So, Jim, how much culpability do you think that the media and our Democrat representatives have in this? Because I mean, I don't want to like defend these nutters committing these acts of violence, but mainstream Democrats have been saying for years now that Trump is literally Hitler, that he's genocidal. They've been saying that ICE is engaging in ethnic cleansing, and representatives from the Democrat Party, mainstream on the Hill representatives, and those doughboy Republican Lincoln Project people are calling ICE detention centers concentration camps. So these people committing these attacks are reacting to that narrative. And in that context, it doesn't seem totally outlandish that they would have this kind of reaction. So, Trump's been threatened multiple times. He's been shot at once. So what is going on here?
Well, I mean, when you put it that way, and it's very charitable, Linnea, very nice of you. That's your nature. But when you put it that way, why would you not expect this kind of reaction? Why isn't this on the news 24/7? The shadow of January 6th is over top of all of this, but not in the way that the media thinks. Say what you will about J6, but it was a 2.5, 3 hour riot. It got out of hand. Some police officers were assaulted, as happens in riots all over the country, and happened in riots all over the country in 2020. Not a single Democrat seemed to care at all that police were assaulted in those riots. And now it seems like Democrats don't really care all that much about these things that are happening here, and neither does their propaganda media. Again, why isn't it a 24/7 news story about these increasing incidents of attacks by radical leftist Antifa folks against law enforcement carrying out federal policy? Federal policy, by the way, as we mentioned on the podcast, or I did at least the other day, our current immigration law is basically the Democrats' version of immigration law. Because if Republicans had their way, the laws would be a lot stricter. But they are carrying out the law by trying to deport people who should not be here, starting with hardened criminals, which Democrats don't seem to care about getting out of this country. And others are, maybe getting wrapped up in it. But if you're here illegally, you should be removed, period. It would happen to me if I was illegally in another country. It's no reason why it shouldn't happen here. But are we going to see special hearings in Congress on the left's violent attacks against law enforcement? Are we going to see congressmen weeping on camera about how this isn't who we are? Like, what's his name? He's from Illinois. Used to be. I can't remember his name. I'm glad I can't remember his name.
Kitzinger.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks a lot. Kitzinger. We're going to see him crying about how this isn't who we are as Americans. This is anti-American. No, we're not going to say any of that. And what's interesting is as you pointed out, they're reading that news story, Linnea. The one shooter, thank goodness he was incompetent. Showed up with a bulletproof vest on and armed to the teeth, and his would-be assault upon ICE lasted about 30 seconds. I think he was immediately dispatched. He never got a shot off. What do you mean we don't know what his name is? This was 4 days ago or more? We don't know what his name is. This keeps happening too, and the media seems incurious about it as well. When it's obvious left-wing violence against society, against their fellow Americans, who knows what the motive might be? We're not going to look into anything about his background. The man who shot, the young man who shot Donald Trump in the ear, and if he did not turn his head, he would have had his brains splattered on stage in front of millions of live viewers. We still know absolutely nothing about that man, his motivations, anything. It's bizarre that we don't know anything, but actually not so bizarre because our media is not very curious in all these kind of things. Unless, of course, it happens to be somebody who could be perhaps put under the MAGA tent or somebody on the right. Then suddenly it's like we're sending a team of 40 reporters to find out everything they know about this man and his seventh cousin who lives in Texas somewhere. So yes, the media is partially to blame for this. The people to blame, of course, are the radical lefties who are taking violence in the streets. And I know that we haven't brought it up yet, and I think it's our fourth item to bring up this great. It's amazing that it was in Axios, and how Democrat members of Congress, most of them anonymously, are starting to get a little worried that the basically the thugs and the troops, their brown shirts that they've unleashed upon America to stop Trump are getting a little out of hand. I think they need to be a little bit more assertive about that, and it would help if our media was too.
Yeah, and we'll see at the main topic of the show, part of how the Democrats are responding to some of this, which is mostly just cowering, as far as I can tell. Sam, what's your thought here?
I think it's instructive that the target of these attacks has been the immigration enforcement services. It's interesting because obviously Trump is over the target. I don't think these attacks are specifically directed at Trump. I think they're directed at the policies that he stands for. Of course, they do hate Trump. There's no question about that. But I do think it is because of what he's been trying to implement. So it's interesting to me that their big concern seems to be that in future elections, only people who have been in America for quite some time and who are have been working and living in this country and have been doing legitimate things and are not criminal aliens would be voting. That seems to me to be the key thing. And if that's the case, as seems to be true, then what is really going on here is an attempt to take over the country by an elite and oligarchs and other such characters, and certainly with an international flavor to it all, and a lot of international financing. So this is an attempt to really to perform a coup, basically to create a color revolution. But the color revolution isn't going to arise. The people of the United States are not buying this idea that Trump is a horrible fascist and a crazy man. There's a strong swath of the population that does believe that does accept that as true, but it's not a winner. It's on all the 80-20 issues, the Democrats and the left are on the side of the 20, and the left part of the Democrats are on the side of about 1%. So speaking of 1%ers. So I think that the key thing here is that Trump is over the target, and they are desperate to ensure that it's not just stopping immigration now. That's already happened. What I think they're most concerned about is actually sending back people who are in this country illegally, whom I refer to as criminal aliens. So you can't say no human is illegal. Well, some humans are criminal, and we know that. So getting rid of these criminal aliens from our country and sending them to other places, and it's not really a big issue as to where they go, because that's not our problem. We didn't bring them in. Of course, we did. Joe Biden did, but that's an issue for further discussion down the road. But yeah. I think it's instructive as to what their real plan is, what they're really after.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there, Sam, because the immigration issue is one of the things that Trump is very well over the target on. As you said, the 80-20 issues, most Americans are in favor of deportations, and that is what the Trump administration appears to be laser focused on right now. And it's also focused on reducing some legal or some like permitted job related residency as well, which is a good transition into our second topic, which is the Elon Musk America Party. So we will, guys, be looping back to the violence topic later in the show, but I want to cover a couple of things before we get to that main topic, though. So from Fox News, we have a report on Elon Musk's startup here. It says, as Elon Musk's move forward with forming a third party in hopes of rocking the nation's longstanding two-party system, the world's richest person is reaching out to a one-time presidential candidate who has started his own party. Musk, Musk, the billionaire of CEO in Tesla and SpaceX, who spent the first 4 months of President Trump's second administration as a special advisor, steering Doge, spoke with Andrew Yang, Fox News has confirmed. A source familiar with the conversation, I hate it when they do that. Don't you guys hate that? I hate it. Said that the two discussed Musk's push to create the America Party, which Musk aims to field some candidates in next year. for the midterm elections. So also, it's pretty notable that expressing support are the likes of Mark Cuban and other like tech bro types who are very much not right wing. So, Sam, a lot of Elon's issue and falling out with Trump has had to do with not just spending in the big, beautiful bill, but that's certainly a huge part of it, but also the H-1B issue. If our viewers remember back in December when Elon had a crash out over H-1Bs. And historically, we have had third parties, and they rarely do very well. Do you think that Elon fielding people on this platform that he's proposing here is going to break that trend, or is it just going to be like all the other third parties? You are muted for some reason.
Oh, I'm very sorry there. Phil, third parties, at least one third party had some success in the past, and that was the Republican Party, which started out as, I think it was the Whigs, wasn't it? And they were, then they became the Republican Party and became a very powerful party over the years, and they've lasted 150 years plus since then. So it can happen. And I think that Musk's plan is actually fairly reasonable, which is to get a few swing votes into the Congress, into the Senate, and into the House. That would actually work, and that's how parliamentary systems work in particular. So there's some history there that shows this isn't exactly insane or anything. However, I think that none of this really was ever about MAGA or Trump and Elon Musk supporting them. I think that Musk was always about Elon Musk, his own point of view and ideas, and he seems to have felt that that his ideas would never be advanced if Joe Biden and then his substitute Kamala Harris had been elected president. So that's why he would spend so much money on Trump. It wasn't spending money, I suspect now, it wasn't spending so much money in order to get Trump elected as to defeat Biden and then Harris. So what he's done is he's got them out of the way, and his idea now is obviously it's not pure free market conservatism of any sort that he's looking at. It's Andrew Yang certainly does not represent that, and that's a person to whom Musk has reached out personally, and vice versa. So this America Party, it's a great name, very smart, especially coming from an immigrant, which is kind of cute. But I think that, as I say, there's some logic to it. I don't think it represents any real central force in the United States at present, but it could have some effect. And in my view, the effect would be entirely, and this may be sort of an outlier point of view, but I think the effect would be, let's say, almost entirely on suppressing the Democrats' success. The anti-Trump vote would be split along these lines, and the anti-MAGA vote would be split along those lines. So I think it would probably take away more from the Democrats than from the Republicans. So it's actually, I don't see it as any great catastrophe or anything to be worried about. Let's just, once again, you just have to see how these things play out.
Jim, obviously Elon Musk is a smart guy, but he also seems rather unstable. Definitely self-interested. Sometimes that self-interest is stuff that I'm into, like going to Mars. Other times that self-interest is not stuff that I'm into, like pushing electric vehicles.
How dare you?
Thank you, Greta. But yeah, it's what are your thoughts here? Because he doesn't seem like he knows what he wants and he fights for it, it appears, which is good. But he doesn't seem to me to have very much political acumen, for better or for worse. He wants things his way right now, and he cannot fathom not getting them his way right now.
Getting things his way right now is how he's become a colossus in business and science and achievement, and will be remembered centuries from now for what he's done. He's in the pantheon of some of the greatest American businessmen and industrial titans ever in the history of this great country, which produces them better than any other. Musk actually already joined a third party. It's called MAGA. I mean, the Republican Party right now is already split between, basically a new kind of Republican Party, a Republican Party that actually adheres to the principles it says it wants to uphold, by and large. I mean, not everything. I don't want to go down the checkbox and all that stuff, but the MAGA revolution changed the Republican Party in ways that a lot of longtime Republicans and conservatives and libertarians have been waiting to happen for literally decades. Musk has been involved heavily in politics for really about 12 months. He didn't get what he wanted from the big, beautiful bill. He's not getting what he wants right now out of Doge, but he's gotten a lot. He's gotten a lot more than a lot of other people have gotten when they first got into politics. And I think this, I guess he's already started. I guess he can't backtrack on this and say, I was just kidding, forget about it. So I suppose he has to, just for pride's sake, move forward, and maybe he'll find a way to bring that back into in the MAGA movement. But because, again, he's already joined a third party. The MAGA agenda and its ability under Trump's leadership to get actual reforms and action is remarkable to anybody old enough like me, like in my 50s. Remember that kind of the excitement about the Newt Gingrich revolution in 1994 and the contract with America, and how, checking off, I think 7 out of those 10 were pretty good. But compared to what's happening now, that's pretty small beer. Elon Musk should actually just declare victory. I guess he already has in certain ways, because he got what he wanted out of MAGA and supporting Donald Trump. He stopped the left from a complete takeover of our federal government in all areas, and the ensconcement of hard left ideology into American life and policy, maybe forever. I mean, that's the way he talked about it, at least, that this was the last chance to stop that and to reverse course and go another way. Just, again, his impatience. And again, he doesn't have a lot of experience in this. And his attitude has gotten a lot of things done at SpaceX and at Tesla and in other places. But, Sam knows this. Republicans waited for victory on abortion for 50 years. Took them 50 years to get what they wanted on abortion policy in this country. I've been waiting for the Environmental Protection Agency to be reined in for decades. George W. Bush didn't do it. He appointed a squish, Christine Todd Whitman, to be head of EPA, who basically was just doing the same stuff that Bill Clinton's administration was going to do, just trying to make us feel better about it. Look, if Marco Rubio and Donald Trump could make up after Donald Trump calls him Lil Marco, if Donald Trump and Ted Cruz can kiss and make up after he accuse his dad of killing Kennedy or something like that, and other nonsense. I think if those two things could happen, I think eventually, and Elon Musk and Donald Trump had another spat that seemed pretty serious, and they shook hands and made up. I just have a feeling that, although I guess he can't abandon the whole America Party thing since he's made such a big deal out of it, but I have a feeling that Elon Musk will come to his senses and realize how good he has it now compared to how good or how bad or how there was nothing had by anybody who's tried to reform the system through the party system for as long as anybody listening to this podcast has been alive.
Yeah, I think so. Brian Singer in the comments here makes a good point. He says, doesn't Trump want his things and want them now? How does this differ from Elon? And I think the difference is that Trump is willing to take the good when the perfect is out of reach. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like Elon is able to do that. Trump hypes up the good as though it is the perfect when it's not, which gives the impression that he always gets things his way. But he certainly has not always gotten his way. So yeah, and he doesn't just quit the entire negotiation over it.
Right. I mean, Sam can add into this too, but one thing we've learned about Trump is that, he's always wanting to make a deal. He's a deal maker. He'll make deals for as long as he's awake. He's most happy when he's making a deal. And in his eyes, a good deal is a deal where both sides feel like they got what they wanted, or at least got enough of what they wanted. So he's not looking to win 100%. That he doesn't consider that actually a good deal. That's too easy, maybe. I don't know. But, Elon Musk needs to understand the art of politics, which is not getting everything you want right now. It's moving things a little more slowly. It's a dirty, difficult process, but it's the process that we have, and it's the process that actually most people can and will accept.
And it's something that Republicans have been kind of bad at. Like they compromise on everything, but they always compromise too much in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So now we're compromising, leaning towards our direction on things. And it's still not like, you've still got people saying, no, we have to throw it all out unless we get every single thing that we want out of everything. And I understand that perspective. My frustration with the Republican Party in particular, my entire life has been very extreme. So I totally get it, and I empathize with it a lot. But yeah,
Well,
it is difficult to watch.
Yeah, one of our viewers here, Nuts Bolts, has a comment, says that Elon deserves some sort of honor to recognize his service to the USA. And I 100% agree with that. I mean, for crying out loud, if Donald Trump can give Anthony Fauci the presidential, a presidential medal, he can certainly give one to Elon Musk and maybe sign a declaration rescinding the one to Anthony Fauci at the same time. That would make me very happy.
Yep. All right. So Elon is a tech guy. He's been courting a lot of tech guys. And we are transitioning now into our third topic here, which is about AI, which we talk about a lot on this show, but it's because, and I want to emphasize this a lot to our conservative viewers, it is an important emerging technology. The cat is out of the bag. It's not going back into the bag. And it's also very dangerous, as all powerful technology is. I always think of the Ian Malcolm quote about a kid who found his dad's gun. It's the same thing with AI. And so a recent report from Breitbart says that someone has been using an AI deepfake of Marco Rubio's voice and has been up to no good with it. So let's take a look at that. Breitbart reports an individual posing as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly used an AI-generated voice to call high-level officials in what appears to be an attempt to manipulate government officials to obtain access to information or accounts. The unknown Rubio imposter has so far reportedly contacted at least 5 government officials, 3 foreign ministers, 1 U.S. governor, and 1 member of Congress. The individual, whom authorities have not yet been able to identify, reportedly used AI software to send the government officials text messages that mimicked Rubio's voice and writing style. Authorities believe the imposter is likely trying to manipulate the high-end officials with the goal of gaining access to information or accounts. The July 3rd cable sent by Rubio's Office of State Department employees said. The unknown individual began their impersonation attempts in mid-June. And so they've been using the encrypted messaging app Signal under the display name marco.rubio@state.gov, which is not his real email address, but it looks convincing, right? So the actor left voicemails on Signal for at least 2 targeted individuals, and in one instance sent a text message inviting the individual to communicate on Signal. So this is scary stuff, you guys. It's especially serious when it's carried out against government officials, but it can also happen to you, and it does. At the Heartland Institute, we get emails from time to time pretending to be an employee. Even our president, James Taylor, who was in the chat earlier, I saw, trying to fish for information or just pull the old gift card scam. No AI voice stuff yet, but it can happen, and it probably will eventually. So everybody needs to stay frosty on this stuff. Jim, we've talked about AI for a long time here, and I mentioned once that it's probably going to change the way that courts look at video evidence. And our producer Andy says that audio actually scares him quite a bit more, and it'll probably be more dangerous. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the issues that we are trying to stay on top of at the Emerging Issues Center at the Heartland Institute. Whenever we bring up AI, I know Donnie wants to be on the show as he heads our center to talk about it. But yeah, it is getting worrisome. We talked about this actually on in a conference call among Heartlanders the other day, and one of our senior fellows suggested that a solution to this, and I remember Sam will remember this because he disagreed, but one of our senior fellows said maybe a solution to this is to put up a make a law to put up a watermark, either an audio one, I suppose, or a visual watermark that says this is AI, because it is getting so good. And no, I don't think Sam would agree. And Sam made the point in our call that, that's what you don't want is government deciding those kinds of rules for the use of artificial intelligence when it comes to audio and visual stuff. We at the Heartland use AI a ton. Andy Singer, our producer, is like an AI savant. I don't know when he sleeps because he's always experimenting using AI. But I think we're savvy. We think we're savvy enough to know the difference, that we can see something that's made with AI and think, no, that's not really Marco Rubio saying that. That's not really Donald Trump saying that. That doesn't look quite right. There's something just a little off, but that something is just a little off just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it gets more difficult to do. And so you see these stories like in tabloids like the Daily Mail. I think it was in there that somebody was convinced that Keanu Reeves was their friend.
Oh yeah, that's I have that story pulled up here too. That was Hollywood Reporter. We'll bring it up in a second. But make your point.
Yeah. And then there was some poor schlub who thought that Jennifer Aniston was in love with him with the use of AI and social media. So, it's like the Nigerian prince scam. Like, the reason they do these things is because they work. You are not scammed by it. You know that there is no Nigerian prince, and it's dumb to share your banking information with a stranger. But those sorts of scams only have to hit once. And with the use of technology, when you can send out such a wide net, 99.99% of people delete it or see it as a scam. That 0.001% is all you need. And then, then you try again the next day and do the same thing. So it's. I know that Donnie has talked about how dangerous it can be, and we're not even there yet. Everything is so new. Like, what if there was an AI that convinced you that Donald Trump ordered a military strike, or that somebody uses AI to again mock our Secretary of State's voice to conduct negotiations with a foreign nation? These are problems that I didn't think we would have to even contemplate in a real way for many years. And a year ago, I used AI I was just curious about it. I used AI to reproduce my voice, to train AI to reproduce my voice. It was pretty close, but Andy, for one, our producer, knew that it wasn't me, but it was pretty close. I tried to get it past my sister. She said, "That sounds weird. What's wrong with you?" But if I was to do it today, and that's just 12 months later, I bet I could fool my own family with the voice capabilities of AI. I'm absolutely sure of it. So this is getting pretty scary right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring up that this is a little bit off from what we usually talk about. Originally, I wanted to talk about this because of the national security implications, but I realized that, there are probably our audience is a bit more savvy than the average audience. But a lot of people are just not aware of the amount of scams that are out there. So I wanted to bring some of this up, and your Hollywood Reporter story reminded me of a documentary or something I was watching on either Amazon or Hulu or something a couple of weeks ago about these romance scams using either AI or not even using AI, just claiming that they're, making a profile claiming that they're like Brad Pitt or something, and convincing these poor, desperate women that they have this like celebrity boyfriend who's interested in them and stuff. And it's so sad. So I wanted to read some bits from this Hollywood Reporter story. It says, online scams take many forms, but the ones weaponizing celebrity fandom are getting intense notice in Hollywood right now. With scammers aided by such rapidly evolving tools as AI, cryptocurrencies, and messaging apps that make it easy to disseminate fakes and operate undetected, stars and talent agencies find themselves in an escalating game of whack-a-mole, hiring companies to scan the web for fakes and getting those accounts shut down. Some 400 performers, including Scarlett Johansson, Common and SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher, have signed on to support legislation making its way through Congress called the No Fakes Act, which seeks to create protections for artists' voices, likenesses, and images from unauthorized AI-generated deepfakes. So I want to know, because I actually haven't talked about have not talked to our experts here in public policy on this particular topic. But Sam, does that particular type of thing, I guess we'd have to see how deep the No Fakes Act actually goes, no pun intended there, but is that the kind of thing that is in line with a free market think tank environment? Like this is stuff that's saying, there are people making fake, very convincing profiles of these celebrities or even real people, and then going and scamming people with them, or even just making money off of it by pretending to be these people. So I don't know. It's a weird place, isn't it?
It definitely is in terms of policy. I certainly don't think that the federal government is the appropriate forum for this kind of matter. The problem that you have is, first of all of these activities are illegal already. You don't need some new laws to make fraud illegal. You can't do it through the mails. You can't do it through the internet. It's already illegal. So why do we have to pile on more laws? I just don't like it. I think it's quite dumb and very ill-advised. But I do think it's one thing that I found very interesting in the article on the how it's done with individuals is that Keanu Reeves and his team were very concerned about the effect on other people. It wasn't just about that you're taking away from Keanu Reeves by doing this. They were sincerely concerned, and it did sound sincere to me, about the effect of this on people that are being harmed by it. So I think that is a very good thing. Just one last point I'd like to make is that, look, scams have always existed. They evolved to take on the power that new technologies and new situations give them. But the fact is that there are always going to be people out there trying to scam one another, and there is sort of caveat emptor is still true, buyer beware. And the fact is that there are plenty of emotionally vulnerable people in the United States, and we seem to have a great capacity for creating emotionally vulnerable people here. And I think that that's always going to be the case. So we really need to, I think, enforce the laws that we already have, and then see if there's anything new that's needed. I don't believe that there is, and I don't trust the federal government to do any of this. State level, I don't have a problem with.
Yeah. So if our viewers want to learn more about, the kind of scams that are out there, I would recommend actually looking at like scam bait YouTube channels like Scammer Payback or Kit Boga or someone. Learn the hallmarks of this stuff. Don't give personal information online, and for heaven's sake, do not use the first phone number at the top of the Google search when looking for like Microsoft's phone number or another technology company or your credit card company's phone number, because one of the major ways that scammers are getting people right now is because they pay for their fraudulent phone numbers to end up at the top of Google's search and like in the AI summary. So I've heard of so many people just using the first phone number that pops up on Google when you're trying to look for your like bank's number. Don't do that. Look at the number on the back of your card, please, or on like the device that you bought if you're looking for a tech company's phone number. You cannot trust this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, as vice president of the Heartland Institute, I have to sign, lots of documents, and sometimes legitimately, there's certain things you have to requires my signature affixed to a document. And it was actually just this week, somebody who, was complaining. It's like, I've sent you the document to sign, 4 times in the last week, can you please get on and sign that? But I hear that from from a third party. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to sign something that says, DocuSign at the top in my email. That goes right to the delete button, man. It's like, you need to text me or call me. I need to have basically 2 two proof of life and verifications from real people before I do anything like that. And I can't tell you how often that happens where, the way we've set things up is that you just kind of get this generic email that says, please sign this. In fact, the last one that I got that I actually ended up having to sign, it had DocuSign. It didn't tell me what it was about. Didn't tell me who it was from. It was legit. It ended up being legit. It asked for the last 4 digits of my social security number to open the document. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All you have to do is call me and say, look out for this email. It will look exactly like this. I'm sending it right now. So you will see it in the next 3 minutes. I actually had to have my, I'm pretty savvy with that stuff, but I found, and maybe AI had something to do with it. I was actually, maybe because they're listening to me talk on my phone. Who knows? These things are happening. But I swear, I asked somebody, please send me something to sign. I'm looking out for it. He goes, okay. I got a document that looked exactly like it was supposed to. And I opened that. And that was the mistake. He said that the real one came like 5 minutes later. It's unbelievable coincidence. Hopefully it was a coincidence and that people were watching these things. But you have to be very careful in your own life. And I guess now you even have to be careful that, when your mother calls you, it's actually your mother because you may recognize her voice. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator in the first Terminator film. He picks up the phone, imitates the voice, and there you go. So that was what? 30 years ago, and that was predicted, and here we are.
Yeah, watch 80s action science fiction movies to prepare yourself for the future here. And I'm only half joking about that one. So yeah, guys, be careful, double check everything. You don't have to be like stupid with computers and not know what you're doing to get tricked by this stuff, okay? Like they prey on people who are distracted by whatever else they've got going on, or they try to create like stress for you to feel. That's what the like fake virus scam stuff tries to do. It tries to make you panic and feel like you need to get in contact with someone to fix it really fast. And when they offer you to fix, they offer to fix it for you, they're like right there to help you, and that's how they get you. But so don't use the phone number that comes up on Google. No company will ever ask for remote access to your computer. All of these things are hallmarks. Nobody will ever ask you to pay using gift cards for anything. I got that one from James Taylor. James Taylor one time asked me to send him some gift cards in my Heartland email. That was pretty good. That was fun to mess with a little bit. But yeah, no. So be careful out there, you guys. Anyway,
one quick thing.
Yeah.
Tying this back to the Rubio situation, no one is safe. That's the lesson we can learn from this. You're not safe. You may be as smart as can be, but they'll find a way to get in there. So everybody, you're right. Be careful out there. Don't ever get overconfident. Don't ever think that you can't be fooled, because you can.
That's exactly right. No matter how tech savvy you are, you can be tricked by this stuff. So just be so careful. All right. So, to another kind of criminal, our main topic here today is back to the violence from Democrats stuff. So from Axios, we have this amazing report where Democrats are told to get shot for the anti-Trump resistance. At town halls in their districts and in one-on-one meetings with constituents and activists, Democrat members of Congress are facing a growing thrum of demands to break the rules, fight dirty, and not be afraid to get hurt. Just as an aside, they say this as though Democrats already don't play by the rules, but moving on. Anyway, so House Democrats told Axios that they see a growing anger among their base that has, in some cases, morphed into a disregard for American institutions, political traditions, and even the rule of law. The grassroots wants more. Some of them have suggested what we really need to be doing is be willing to get shot when visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies, a third House Democrat told Axios. This quote says, "Our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough, that there needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and public," one lawmaker said. A fourth House Democrat said constituents told them civility isn't working and prepare for violence to fight to protect democracy. Another House Democrat said the expectations aren't just unreal, they're dangerous. And yet another told Axios, "I actually said in a meeting, when they light a fire, my thought is to grab an extinguisher." And someone else at the table said, "Have you tried gasoline?" So I'm not going to pretend like you don't see this kind of rhetoric, in like the comment sections, places on the right. You'd have to be like willfully blind not to see hyperbolic comments at our town halls and stuff. But Democrats are way more willing to stoke the flames. And maybe now that there have been some real shootings, like what we talked about at the start of the show, maybe they'll cut it out. Jim, any chance? My money is actually on them doubling down, even as I said before in the show, that some of the Democrats seem to be actually scared of their base at this point. But what do you think here?
Oh, I mean, I think that Axios story was quite remarkable because I think it shows that many Democrats are scared of their base, and they have every reason to be. And just as an aside, I sure hope Kash Patel's FBI is working to infiltrate these organizations the way they infiltrated, right-wing militias, the Michigan militia and things like that, for the kidnapping, the supposed plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, which was basically the idea of the FBI informant in the conspiracy, and it was so obvious that
I thought
convictions.
I thought that
away.
situation was like the Man Who Is Thursday type of scenario, where all of the conspirators were actually also federal agents.
Yeah, I know. It's like that. It's like that Spider-Man meme. They're all pointing at each other, and they're all feds, right? So
yeah,
I don't know. But this ties into the first topic that we talked about today. These members of Congress in this Axios story, some members of Congress were on the record stating basically that they're getting kind of scared of their constituents. We're telling them that, you got to be willing to get shot. The most kind thing that people said from this story was that, we can't keep following the norms of decorum, that their constituents were telling them that the Democrats can't continue following the norms of decorum. It's like, I'd like to know what it looks like when they're not following the norms of decorum. When they're calling Trump Hitler, when Joe Biden is given the dark Brandon speech, calling half this country semi-fascist and all that stuff. So I suppose that was using decorum. And I guess the escalation of that is violence, which is what we're seeing more and more. And again, our media is not covering this and giving this story, because it's a nationwide story, the attention and coverage it deserves. I mean, we all know the cliche. If some wild-eyed Republican says something wild-eyed and crazy, the legacy media will dispatch their reporter to track down every Republican they can find in Congress and make them defend or denounce that thing. We're not seeing that happen here. Why not? We know why. Because the legacy media is the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. They're not an actual media. But for the grassroots people to tell, I suppose, members of Congress that you need to be willing to be shot. Well, I know one politician in Washington who's willing to be shot to stand up for what he believes in. His name is Donald Trump, because he was shot and almost shot it, and tried to be shot a second time. The idea that there needs to be, again, quote from the story, there needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public. This all goes, and then you read the quote in there, Linnea, about we have to prepare for violence to protect our democracy. This goes back to the very irresponsible rhetoric that the Democrat Party has employed to stop Donald Trump since the 2024 presidential election for basically years. They've been using this rhetoric. And again, just looking at it objectively and logically, why would your base not think these things are necessary to, quote unquote, protect democracy? You may have not have noticed, I sure have, that our democracy, our republic, is actually still intact. And our Supreme Court is working as designed, and our Congress is working as designed. Our republic is actually very strong. But the Democrat Party has told its base that every opposition to their policy preferences is illegitimate at best and a threat to our very democracy at worst. And it's going to, we've seen this, Sam knows this as well as I do. The Democrats have employed rhetoric, what was that ad back when Paul Ryan, about as milquetoast a Republican as you can get. Democrats ran an ad of Paul Ryan literally wheeling grandma in a wheelchair off a cliff. Now this goes back a long time with the Democrat Party, and if there are examples this egregious and this numerous on the Republican side, I'd like to hear them, and that shouldn't be employed either. But the Democrat Party is the one. If these members of Congress are going back to their town halls and are aghast at what they're hearing from their constituents, they only have themselves to blame.
Yep.
They have fed this paranoia, and it's very mentally unhealthy to keep feeding this into people's brains, because eventually they believe it. And so it's going to get actually worse before it gets better. When somebody at the table says, "Have you tried gasoline instead of a fire extinguisher?" That's a warning shot, man. That's a warning that we're going to be getting into, I think, much darker places before this, if it can ever be fixed.
Yep, and I wanted to because Sam brought up earlier on the show the color revolution idea, and we've talked about this before, Sam, and you've brought it up before that that's what they do, or that's what they try to do, and now we're at the stage where they're just saying it. This story is unbelievable from Hot Air. This is USAID staffers plot insurrection and brag about it. Here's a quote from another story that says, embedded in the Hot Air story, it says, "Take it from those of us who worked in authoritarian countries. We've become one," said a currently employed federal official who spoke to Notice on condition of anonymity. They were so quick to disband AID, the group that supposedly instigates color revolutions, but they've done a very foolish thing. You just released a bunch of well-trained individuals into your population. If you kept our offices going and had us play solitaire in the office, it might have been safer to keep your regime. And I just want to point out right off the bat, that's like extortion or black. I don't know what the correct word for that is, but that's definitely like threatening, oh, you need to keep us employed so that we don't try to take down the government. That's a crazy thing for someone to say. I'm not a fan of doxing, but it's no wonder that this person said this stuff anonymously. The former officials tell Notice that they're holding workshops on a tactic called non-cooperation. They're building a network of government workers willing to engage in even minor acts of rebellion in the office, and they're planting the seeds of what they hope could become a nationwide general strike. Hot Air's David Strom remarks to that, "During Trump's first term, they were called the Resistance, and we were told that their cause was just. This time around, they're Democracy AID, and the premise is the same. Bureaucrats, not elected officials, are the ones who have the right to rule over us." There's a meme that goes around that's like, first they'll say they're not doing it, then they'll say, well, if we were doing it, and then they'll say, well, we're doing it, but it's a good thing. And then, it just goes around and around like that. And that's 100% on the color revolution thing, what the left is doing right now. Sam, you've talked about this before. What's your, how does it feel to be so correct?
Well, it's funny because they were doing the same thing during the first Trump administration as well. And then they were doing it during the Biden administration. And so what's been going on here is that the sense of urgency that the Democrat politicians characteristically have, which is that they convey this sense of urgency that if we don't stop Trump, X will happen. And it's always fascism will become Nazi Germany ASAP. So if we don't stop Trump, that's going to happen. So there's this sense of urgency, and when you have a sense of urgency, you'll do whatever it takes to avert the horror that is ahead of you and is imminent. So the idea is to normalize very abnormal behavior. So, for example, shooting ICE agents, or trying to stop ICE agents who are doing their jobs. You shouldn't, whether you agree with the political moves or not, the political elements behind it, you shouldn't hate these people. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so creating these enemies and this kind of, like I say, this sense of urgency, the Democrat politicians and their friends in the press have been doing that ever since really the Obama years. And they've been amping it up every year. And it's funny because now here we're almost 20 years after that, it's still urgent. It's always urgent. It's always, it's about to happen. It's about to happen. This government's about to be taken over by the Nazis, or it has been taken over by the Nazis. We're the only thing, the thin red line standing in the way of the Nazis actually doing all the kinds of concentration camp horrors that they have in mind. So what you do is you create that sense that you've got an urgently, desperately bad situation because you've got crazy people running the country, and then you say, well, we got to get them out of there, and whatever we do is okay, and that's your color revolution.
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out before though that the general population is not on their team with this. That's why, in part, they've been running all the propaganda so hard. You know, we said this. Gosh, when was it? Would have been before Trump was even elected, and someone on this show, I think, said that the moment Trump starts actually enacting his deportation agenda, we are going to be bombarded with endless pictures of crying kids and people looking sad and people being arrested that look, that you can't tell right away are MS-13 or something. And they're giving us all of that, but they're also giving us pictures of dudes with like skull tattoos across their face and eyes and like MS-13 plastered across their chest, and we're supposed to feel bad for them too. So they are pulling out everything that they can to try and get people, the general population, to turn on the deportation agenda. But I don't really think it's working. It's, when you go online, there's a very high concentration of people who are very passionate about this stuff and who are very like aggressive about it. But in everyday life, I'm not seeing too many Democrats who are that worried about deportation, especially of the extra criminal element, right? Jim, you're muted.
I pulled a Jim. That's called pulling a Jim, keeping it muted. So we got a Jim from Sam and a Jim from Jim, the original. The original. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to go back to the just this undermining of Trump. The color revolution. What was the term they used? Like soft. Was there soft something in there? I don't know. But the point being is that this already happened in Trump's first term. I believe. We didn't have this as a topic today, but I believe the FBI, or at least it's been reported, the FBI is open investigation against John Brennan, James Comey, former FBI director, and James Clapper for lying to Congress or whatever they can get them on because of the fake Russia collusion operation that was ordered, mind you, by Barack Obama to undermine Trump's and illegitimize Trump's presidency before it even got started. We are finally, one of my greatest frustrations about our public life and our politics over the last, 6 years, is how not a single person who engaged in that revolution, that soft coup from the deep state behind the scenes, has been punished in any way.
Yeah.
In fact, almost everybody involved in that soft coup against Trump in his first term have been lavishly rewarded for what they did, financially, socially, and professionally, in every way possible. But now it seems, I don't want to get my hopes up, because getting your hopes up ends up, then you end up wondering why you can't see Epstein's client list. So you don't want to get too far out there on the plank. But there is a chance perhaps now that there will be some accountability for that, because it did happen in Trump's term. That was the most high-profile, damaging way that Trump was undermined by our government that we elected him to run in the first term. It was done in 1,000 different ways in 100 different bureaucracies in that first term. But this is why it is very good news that the Supreme Court just this week ruled 8-1 with the clownish Ketanji Brown Jackson, the only dissenter. But the Supreme Court said that it is actually constitutional for Donald Trump to act as an elected president and to begin a plan to lay off a bunch of useless federal bureaucrats, or even worse than useless, harmful federal bureaucrats, and reorganize the government in ways that are that he can do so under the law. Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent basically said, you can't even plan to do that. It's already unconstitutional. It took Sonia Sotomayor, another one of the liberals on the court, to actually upbraid her this time. Not Amy Coney Barrett, but Sonia Sotomayor, to upbraid her and saying, you don't know what you're talking about, that this is constitutional. He is allowed to do this. So that is a very encouraging sign that's related to this idea. It's a lot harder to have a soft coup from inside, or a cover revolution from inside the federal government, when you're kicked out of the federal government. And the last bit of good news about this is that these people and these agencies are self-identifying to make it a lot easier to get them the hell out of Washington, D.C., so that the people can get the government that they elect.
Yeah,
that's a good point, Jim. Don't ever do what the bad guy tells you. And if he tells you, leave us in the government, don't do that.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. It's pretty remarkable, actually. And so again, one of our viewers today, Brian Singer, asked towards the top of the show, actually, that he said, it appears that many soft-hearted and caring liberals or Democrats are violent, angry posers. Their virtue signaling is less than a hair's diameter. Blame can be spread all over, but what is the root cause? And I think the root cause is resentment and ingratitude, like as a personality trait, actually. Conservatives, I think, tend to have gratitude for even their situation when it's not a good situation, like when we're out of power, or when things are going really bad in the economy, or when we're down in the dumps. I think conservatives, or more conservative-minded people, tend to have an outlook of, well, it could be worse, and tend to think, like, well, but the thing is, I have this going for me, and we can do this and to fix it, and it's going to be okay in the long run. And I don't think that a lot of leftists have that. I think that they are just like seething in ingratitude, and that's what you see a lot of the time, I think, with the destruction of like statues of the founding fathers and stuff. Yeah, they're imperfect people, very far from perfect people, but they built something that we're all benefiting from, and they deserve some gratitude for that. And they're just not able to do it. They can't bring themselves to be thankful for something that isn't exactly what they like. So I think that is my best guess at what the root cause is. I'd like to hear what other people on the panel think.
I do think the root cause is really the grasping for power, and it's a matter of just using whatever you can to get what you want. And so, as I say, they manipulate people. They use the emotional appeals. They create a sense of urgency. They demonize their opposition. These are all things that Saul Alinsky wrote about in his Rules for Radicals, which he dedicated to Lucifer. Just as an aside, but he thinks Lucifer is a good guy. So what can I tell you? But the reality is that this is an attempt to get more power, and if they could get power by being nice, they would. And in fact, they tried for quite some time that tack. In addition to the outright meanness, they tried giving money to people, and they ran out of money. They have no more money they can give to people. So they say, well, we'll scare them to death, and we'll get the crazies out there to make it so that if anybody really wants to work in creating a better society, well, they'll fear for their life. So it's just a quest for power, in my view, and they use manipulative tactics to build up the pathologies within the society. It's the Cloward-Piven strategy, as we've all heard about, where you create disorder in order to get to tell ultimately let's say a socialist / communist government in there. So this is just, I believe it's just all a quest for power. I put no good in it at all. I see no good in it at all. There's no good motives here. There's nothing good about it. It's all evil, and we should oppose it 100% and root it out, root and branch.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, just real quick, because I know we're getting a little over time. We should probably wrap it up here. But, to me, this all comes down to the fact that the left never thought they would ever be out of power. This is a big shock to the system. This is like you're the captain of the Titanic. You've never been in a maritime accident at all, ever. And then you're the captain of the greatest maritime disaster ever. He never thought that would ever happen to him. The left never thought this would ever happen to them. Not just the American left, but the global left. Trump's election in 2016 was the great interruption. Nobody in the world planned for this. And frankly, everything we've seen the global left do since then has been a reaction to that. It was a shock to the system. This was never supposed to happen. The people are not supposed to have a say in their government. The bureaucracy is never supposed to be downsized. Our policy preferences are to never be changed. Our power is to never be shrunk, let alone taken away, but to always grow. And this is and still is a shock to the system. If you're on the left, if you came up in the left, if you really believe in these things, you've had the longest salad days in the history of Western civilization, maybe going back to the Roman times, who knows? But certainly for the longest time of anybody alive listening to this podcast, in that you have dominated academia, you have dominated Hollywood, you have dominated K through 12 education, you have, until relatively recently, dominated Congress, and certainly you have the presidency. And if you had a winning streak like that, losing even a little bit hurts, and hurts a lot. And the natural human reaction to such hurt is a violent, a violent tantrum in one way or another. Sometimes those tantrums become physically violent. Sometimes they just become audibly violent to our ears because they're screaming into their phones for TikTok videos. But to me, that's what this really comes down to, and why Republicans tend to be more level-headed, and while they take politics seriously, it's not actually the be-all end-all of their entire existence, is because Republicans and conservatives and libertarians have never once in their life really experienced that kind of dominance in even one of those areas of our society and politics, let alone all of them at the same time. So to me, a lot of this is that reaction. It's like a trust fund baby who thinks he's going to be rich his whole life, and then suddenly dad turns off all the money and now you're broke. So you become Rachel on Friends. You suddenly have to go get a job and you have to experience the real world, and it sucks. But the moral of Friends is that you can have friends and have a fulfilling life even if you don't get everything you want without working.
Well, and speaking of cutting people off from great wealth and riches, that is all of the time that we have, unfortunately. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We are live every single week on Thursdays at noon Central on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. Jim, what do you have to pitch to us for the end of the show today?
Sure. Follow me on X at @JLakely, and join us tomorrow at this very same time on this very same channel, 1 p.m. Eastern time, for the Climate Realism Show. We are going to have a fantastic program with two very special guests, and we hope to see you there.
Absolutely. Sam?
Thank you, Linnea. Follow me on X at @STKarnick, and my Substack is stkarnick.substack.com. You will enjoy it.
Absolutely. For audio listeners, please give us a nice rating on whatever service you're using. Leave a review. Thank you so much to everybody for being here once again, and we will see you all again next week. Adios.